Action. Okay, here we go. Hi, guys. Welcome back to the podcast. My name is Marisol Negrete Flores, Marisol Negrete Flores. If you're new here, thank you so much for being here. If you have been patiently waiting along, thank you also for that too. It has been almost, I have lost count, to be honest. It's been over a month since I posted. A lot has happened, and I can't wait to fill you in on it. So, where does one begin, right? To give you a quick summary recap, a lot has happened since I last posted. I've been dealing with a lot of issues and still currently working on them. And so it's just been really hard because when you feel like you got a lot on your plate, you're working the 9 to 5, you're trying to start a podcast, and you have some things that are kind of financially taking over your life, other problems in your personal life, and then work sucks, and then, the list goes on. And it felt like a lot in the past month. When it rained, it poured, and there was like just a thunderstorm, a rainstorm, and it just turned in, it just like was a snowball effect of all these things that just like, it was adding up and it piled up and it got really heavy. And so I was like trying to take the time away, and I do this every time. It's a really bad, is it even a coping mechanism if I can't cope through it by myself? I really isolate myself. I don't talk to anyone. I just say, hey, can't. I just like reject plans. I don't want to do anything. I just want to be left alone. I want to cry in my own space. I want to I just kind of want to figure it out until I get through the rut of it. And then I'll come back out when the sun is shining and the stars are twinkling and the rainbows are whatever, right? So to give you the quickest recap, because also, mind you, this is my third time trying to record this video, only because every time I've been trying to, I keep getting interrupted. Like I get phone calls or pressing things that like have to take over, and then I get into like this crazy emotional state, and then I can't even record anymore because you're so out of it. So I'm hoping to get through this. So bear with me as I'm being vulnerable, guys. So early June, as you, those of you that know or may not know, I have the cutest little nugget in my life that means that is my entire world. His name is Maxie Boo Boo, Maximus Esquire the Third is what I also call and joke with him that his name is. But anyway, he's 11 years old, right? And he has been going through a lot of health problems. And these health problems, if you've ever owned a pet, are considering a pet, consider the fact that those vet bills are not going to be cheap. They're far from that and very expensive. Think so much. You have to encompass and think of all, and you don't think of these things sometimes. I think when you're considering getting a pet, there's so much that goes into it, like vaccinations, regular checkups, diet, outdoor activity level, brushing their teeth, like all these things that you have to, grooming that you have to like keep in mind. And when I first got my dog, I was and I think I mentioned this previously in another video, I think it was like my freshman or sophomore year of high school, and I didn't make the most responsible decision at the time I got him. Then literally shortly after that, I got kicked out of the house, and I was like on my own trying to figure out where to live with my dog. And my dog has been with me and through it all with me through like some of the hardest moments of my life, and still is and has been. So anyway, this guy is everything in my world and my life to me, my baby, right? My child. I get it now. I've been getting it. But anyway, early June, fast forward to like a month ago, 2 months ago now, Jesus. Early June, I noticed that his health started declining. Like his activity level, his alertness, his desire to do things, the amount he was sleeping, all these things. And even it got down to the fact where he wasn't eating or drinking water. but as these symptoms started to add up, I was like, maybe this is just with age. But it was almost like too drastic of a switch where I was like, this doesn't feel right. This, like, something's weird, something's off about it. And then also, mind you, in this time frame, I'm getting ready for one of the biggest trips I've taken in the longest period of time in terms of like a 2 week vacation to Europe. And I had been planning this for months. I was so excited to, go to this trip, all these things that we had planned. And I was like, man, like, what do I do? Like, my dog's health doesn't seem to be getting any better right now. Like, it's kind of just adding up. But I also, like, I can't not go on this trip. Like, do I cancel it and stay home and like try to, like, I don't know. And so I made the selfless decision to go to Europe, and it was a great time. Whatever. I am in Europe, and I start to, I guess I didn't even like give you the backstory, damn it. Let me rewind. So these symptoms happen, right? And I was like, you know what? I only have one day off before I go to Europe because I'm working like nonstop. I am going to take that one day off and go to a vet appointment. I couldn't schedule one at the time with my like the place I was trying to do his primary like vet place. So I booked the closest one that had any times available for like a vet checkup, like a overall health and wellness checkup, if you will, was in Kaiser, Oregon, in Vetco. And I was like, you know what? So I booked the appointment. I went. It was June 19th. And when we get there, they were like, yeah, they did all the blood work and we'll get back to you, blah, blah, blah. But they were like, yeah, we can tell that like he's just like not really doing well. Like, we urge you to either go to urgent care, or I really suggest an ultrasound, but you have to, plan it, schedule it. And I was like, okay. But I was like, this is really hard timing because I don't have any other day off until I come back from Europe. And I just don't have time to schedule an ultrasound. And I was like, how much is this ultrasound going to cost? And at this time, the symptoms weren't too bad. So I was like, you know what? I'll go to Europe. When I come back, that'll be one of the first things I address. So I made that decision. I went to Europe. Europe was a grand old time. But while I was there, it was really hard to enjoy it when, like, in the back of my mind, I knew my dog wasn't doing well. So I would call home like every day almost, and was like checking in on his symptoms, trying to see how he was doing. And ultimately it wasn't getting any better. So I was like, man, like, you know what? Like, I'll just schedule up another appointment and see if we can get a second opinion, and we'll go from there. So I schedule another Vetco clinic appointment close to where I live. And I just want to say that with my experience with those two Vetcos, they couldn't have been any more similar, but also a complete waste of time, and would never recommend that to anybody. And if you check the reviews, they speak for themselves. The follow up, the lack of being able to get an answer, and like no one answering the phones is crazy. Like, the amount of work you have to put in to get a follow up or talk to anybody is crazy work. I think if you're paying for a service, and like, yeah, I think it goes to say that, like, depending, and this is just kind of how life is. Like, let's be blunt about it. Like, depending on how much you pay for a service, like, you kind of expect a certain amount of like follow through, or like you expect a certain service back, right? Like, if you're paying top dollar, I would hope you get your top dollar service. And if you're like, paying whatever, then you get what you pay for, right? But and by no means am I saying I paid this much money for these Vetco clinic appointments, but I definitely paid a couple $100s for these Vetco, what's it called? Visits, these overall wellness checkups. And so the lack of communication was just horrible. I could not recommend it. I could not recommend it enough. Don't waste your time and money. Don't do those places. They just really don't care. I couldn't have felt less cared for me and my dog's health. So that's that. And then, so I come home back from Europe. We landed on a Saturday. And then the following Sunday, I literally just like slept in and unpacked. I was just like kind of like brain dead, like not really fully there, because the time difference is like 9 hours. then come Monday, I was like, you know what, like I really need to do this. So I go to work on Monday, and I remember that day I ended up staying at work for like almost another 2 hours later than needed because this issue happened, and I just like couldn't leave work. And I was like, you know what? I really need to go to the vet hospital. Like, I just don't see, like, he's getting worse by the day, it feels like. And I just, like, my heart can't handle it. When you have a pet and you love them so much and you've spent over a decade with them and they're your heart, life, and soul, like, it kills you to see someone or something that you love suffer. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to shower. I'm going to have a quick bite to eat. And then we're going to just rush to the vet hospital. By the time I got home, showered, and I don't even think I ate anything that day. I think I just grabbed something and we went, because I was really just like on the edge of my seat about how anxious and bad I was feeling, because my dog at this point wasn't eating or drinking water. And I was like, this is not right. So we went. And by the time I got checked in and everything, I went to Dove Lewis, by the way. I cannot recommend them enough. They are great. By the time I got checked in and everything, it was about 9 p.m. almost. And I was like, oh, this is going to be a long night. Like, I've never done this before, but I'm like, you know what? I'll probably be out of here by midnight. And on my way, 12:30, that's okay. Like, I can deal with that. I can still sleep in enough before I go to work. So I do that. But for those who haven't had this experience before, let me just tell you that going to a vet emergency clinic that is open 24/7, it is much like, and it reminds me of what I imagine, because I've never had this experience myself, knock on wood, good for me that I've never had to wait in an emergency room or an urgent care really in ages. And so obviously, like, the pressing needs are going to be those that are dying, can't breathe, that kind of thing, right? Like life versus death. And obviously, right? And so my dog, wasn't at the point where he wasn't breathing, not responding, dying per se. But even though it felt like he was dying to me. And so by the time we get checked in, well, not checked in, by the time we like get to actually see the doctor and we're in, because there was definitely some emergency moments that I saw come in. It was probably like 11, maybe 11:30. And one thing I really appreciated and loved about Dove Lewis is that they made you feel like they cared. Like, they asked you so many questions, in-depth questions. And they just like really were attentive to that. They were sensitive about this like situation. And another thing that I really appreciate, because I am fortunate enough to have a credit card where I'm just like, you know what, because of my dog's health, and I will be the first to admit, because I have not prioritized his health in terms of like the routine checkup and vaccines, that I have a credit card where I'm like, you know what, because I've lacked it, I know this is going to cost me a couple $100s. I'm going to charge on the credit card. I just need my dog to be okay, right? So it's a couple $100s, just, it's like a little less than $200 just to get seen. And I'm like, okay, $200, got it. Add that to the total bill that we're already up to, right? And then anyway, we get seen. I tell them all the symptoms, and they're like, okay, like, we're going to go do our own checkup, and I'll come back to you about what my findings are and what we should do. And I was like, okay, cool. So they take him back, and they were like, oh, and mind you, I also had like sent in all my records and stuff, so they could kind of see like what I was talking about. So they see him, and the doctor comes back, and he was so sensitive and so kind, and he was just like, hey, like, he has a lot of liquid in his belly. And mind you, so he's 10 pounds, he's a small, white, fluffy, furry dog, and he had a lot of liquid in his belly that started to accrue over time, which is part of the symptoms that he had. And previous to this, he had like diarrhea, like really bad bowel movements. He was like puking earlier in the month, and had a lot of lack of energy, just was not himself, wouldn't like, it was almost like it was harder for him to move even, like he couldn't even, like he didn't have the energy to get up and down and run back and forth, like the puppy energy he's always had, and go up and down the stairs. And so like it just really made me sad to see all of this declining health in him, right? And symptoms. And so I told them all that, and they were like, you know what we can do, and what they suggested is like, we can take out as much liquid as we can, see what's in it, see if we can see anything with it. He was like, we could do like a small ultrasound, see what we can see. And he's like, I'm not an ultrasound tech, but I'll tell you what I can find. And I was like, sure, I don't care, charge it on the credit card. I just want my dog to live, right? I'm dying inside. And they did. So they took out all the liquid, almost all the liquid. They did the ultrasound, and he came back to me and he was like, hey, like, I'll be honest with you, this isn't good. He was like, I can't really tell why or how all this happened, but what I can tell you is that we were able to take about 1 liter of liquid out. And for size reference, just for you to understand, so my dog is 10 pounds, right? And he had a liter of liquid taken out of his belly, and that's what caused the pressure of that caused him to not want to eat. It made it harder for him to breathe because like all of the liquid's just like pushing up on his chest. And the best way I can even just try to give you that visual is like, and this is exactly how he explained it to me, and I'll never forget, is he was like, your dog is 10 pounds ish. Imagine a 2 liter soda, cut that in half. That is the amount of liquid they took out of his tummy. And I was like, holy, because you wouldn't have been able to tell that was like, I knew there was a lot of liquid in his belly, but no, like that was just so, I couldn't fathom how much that was compared to his little body. And it just like hurt me. It started to break me. I was like, God, I felt so bad, right? Like, how is it that he had this much liquid in his belly? And I almost started to have the mom guilt of like, why didn't I come in sooner? And they had to sedate him and everything. And I was already so emotional about that because they make you sign all these like consent forms about like, hey, if your dog is dying or because of the sedation, like, do you want CPR? Like all the normal stuff. And as you're thinking and signing all this stuff in anxious, anxiety, like kind of mind, like state of mind, it literally is killing me, right? Because this is my life and soul, and I'm just like trusting these vets that they're going to do what's best for him, and they did. But I'm already just so anxious about all of this, and I was there alone, and I was like dying because it was like at this point closer to midnight, maybe 12:30, when he was explaining all this to me, and I had no one to talk to about it. And it's not like who am I going to call and like whine to about it, right? Like I was in a really tough place mentally and emotionally with it. And he suggested, he was like, I really don't think you should wait on getting an ultrasound. We can schedule one as soon as tomorrow and let's see what we can find. He's just like, my worry is that usually when you take this much liquid out, because of how fast it accrued over like maybe 2-3 weeks, maybe even a month or less, that the probability of that happening is very high. Like it's there, like it's not gonna possibly happen. And I was like, me, right? So I was like, didn't even think twice. I was like, yes, schedule the ultrasound, tell me when you need me to be here. And he's like, the soonest we can do. And mind you, at this point it's like 12:30, closer to like 1. He was like, we can schedule it at 10 a.m. as the soonest we can get you in. And I, in my head, I'm like, man, tomorrow morning at 10 a.m., it's already 1 a.m. And I'm just like, man, how am I going to call out of work? How am I going to figure this out? Because I don't have anyone that I can trust or know that like would take care or love or be there or explain or understand or give me the message back of what's going on with my dog, because my mom's working. And I was like trying to debate right then and there how I'm going to make this work. I was like trying to talk it through with them, and they were like, you know what, you can do an early drop off, and then from there we'll do the ultrasound as scheduled at 10. We'll call you back while you're at work. We can call you like maybe within the hour or two what the results are, and then we'll go from there. And I was like, okay. So I did that, and luckily they were also able to just hold him while I was at work. And then as soon as I got off of work at like 5:30, by the time I got there it was like 6:37 ish, I could pick him up. And so I'm like, okay, great. By the time they give him back to me, I'll never forget. It was so sad because he just like went from this dog that was 10 pounds with a liter worth of fluid in his belly to like skin and bones, and he was like wobbly from the sedation. And I was just like, my heart just like broke and sank. I was like, oh my god, I'd never seen my dog like this, like I'm dying. And I hold him and I'm like trying to hold my tears back in front of this stranger vet doctor I met like an hour or two ago, and I'm just like dying on the inside. And I remember putting my dog in my car and I started bawling. I was like, oh my God, like I can't believe I could have maybe have lost him. Like I can't even fathom the fact of this idea. Like I don't know a life almost without Max, you know? And even like talking about it gets me choked up. And so, anyway, by the time we leave the vet hospital, it's probably hovering close to like 2 in the morning after everything is said and done. And mind you, that bill alone from that day was like over $1,000 for everything that they had to do. So I was like, right. And we get home. By the time I like brush my teeth and get into bed, it's like 2:30. I had to get up by like think 6:30ish, maybe 7 to like no, I had to get out of the house by like 6:30. Yeah, maybe by 7. I was up by like 6:30. Had to be at the door by 7 so I could make it there to back to Dove Lewis in the morning to drop him off for the ultrasound because I started work at like 8 or 8:30. And I was like running behind, low on time. And I also remember that day when I was trying to do all that, like I had never seen my dog so out of it and he was so tired. And like, mind you, this whole time I was like going through the rut of like, man, my dog is so sick, he's out of it. I'm literally just like, I'm thinking the worst. I'm like, he's dying, right? And I remember bringing him home in this blanket that I have, and I set him down, and he didn't move the whole night. He just stayed there. And I was like sleeping with so much anxiousness and nerves of like how I didn't want to sleep through my alarm, how I didn't want to be late for work, and how like my dog's dying. And I remember leaving him in the blanket, and I woke up in the morning and I was like, oh, like why does it stink? Like in my room. And it turns out that my dog, I was so sad. He literally just like wet and like went to the bathroom inside the blanket that I left him in. And I just remember being so sad. And I was like, man, like he didn't even, I don't know if he just didn't have the energies or didn't have the strength to get up and go. And usually when he has to go, I can kind of tell now. And I was just dying because I was like, man, like is my dog dying? Like he didn't even get up. And I'm trying to like calm my own mind and thinking that like is probably from the sedation, all the medicine, all the like trauma and stuff he went through in the last like less than 12 hours. So I'm running late to work that day. I give him a bath because I can't just like, well, I like wash the lower half of his body because how are we gonna like, he had all his bowel movements in there, the pee, and it was just a mess of a morning. So did all that, rushed back to the vet hospital to drop him off for the ultrasound, did that. And I go to work, and the whole day I'm just like a mess because I think my dog is literally dying. I've never seen him so weak, so out of it. And I go into work crying like a baby, like a mess. And I told my coworker, she was so sweet and understanding. After I tell my coworker why I'm a mess, and I literally tell her because I'm just like if there's one bad thing, one of many bad things about me is that sometimes when there's like a not so great situation, I literally think of all the possible worst outcomes sometimes, and I just like my mind goes there. And so I literally told my coworker, I was like, hey, like this is going to be really hard on me, and my dog is my everything. And so if I need to be out of work out of nowhere and something happened, then like, you know, I need you to be understanding of that. Like if I send you, I literally told her, I was like, if I send you a sad, like a dog emoji and like a heart or something, just know that like I'm not coming into work. Because I was like, in my head, I'm like, my dog's gonna die, right? Thinking the worst. It's such a bad habit. But anyway, so obviously I'm at work. I'm like not in the state of mind to be there, but I'm like, I can't afford to call out right now because I just racked up like a thousand plus, hovering to $2,000 worth of vet bills already. And I'm like, you know what, I can't. So I am not in the mentality to be at work. I take on the appointments. I don't even remember the appointments I had. I remember just like going through it. So I remember just anxiously waiting this call for the results because they told me they were going to call me as soon as the ultrasound was done. And I waited and waited, and they finally called me, and they gave me the results. And this is kind of to where we're at and has been confirmed more than once. So they were like, hey, we did the ultrasound, and they were like, we couldn't really find anything in terms of like, and they couldn't really see clearly. And they were like, yeah, like we think he has one of these diseases, and it's kind of hard for us to tell, but these are the steps that we recommend moving forward. And so ultimately, they were like, it's either protein losing enteropathy, and in the family of like a gastrointestinal disease. They were like that, or worst case, it's cancer. It's kind of hard to tell. I'm like, what do you even mean? That obviously leaves me with this like big bucket of overthinking thoughts. And I am also like, how did I just pay almost an additional $1,000 for this ultrasound and you can't definitively tell me what it is? Whatever. So they were like, we suggest two things. Either one, you get a internal medicine consult with a doctor who specializes in that, or we could do a biopsy, aka surgery, or one of the oscopies. And I was like, great. I just know that the surgery is not going to be cheap. And I was like, well, can you run me through the prices of everything? What does everything look like? And they did. And the one thing that I appreciate about this doctor is they gave me like, I was probably on the phone with them for like a good 20 minutes. And I only laughed because I remember I was with a client and I was like, oh, I'll be right back. And I took a call for like 15, 20 minutes. Sorry, not sorry. Anyway, and so they're running through with me all these options of like what I have between the internal medicine consult and the surgery. And I was like, okay, well, and I'm at work and I'm like, I'm not really ready to decide that right now because the price differences are drastic. It's either a couple $100s for this internal medicine consult, or you can do surgery, which is thousands. Thousands. And I was like, okay, let me make this decision. Let me call you back and let me make this decision later because I'm not ready to make that while I'm at work and not in the right state of mind. So they were like, okay, cool. So then they follow up with me and I'm like, a couple days later go by and then comes the next week. And I was trying to schedule this internal medicine consult for my dog because it's the cheaper of the two options. And it's just more affordable. So I tried initially to book that following Thursday, which would have been my day off for his, like, establishing his primary vet, you know, kind of appointment is what I made. And so when I made it, and by the time I talked to that doctor, and as that day came, like the day before, she called me and was like, hey, we got your appointment. We just want to check in on like what you're kind of trying to do. Because when I originally made the appointment, like days before that, you call them in, you're like, hey, you give them all the records of where you've been so they can pull it, right? So then come the day before, she was like, hey, I'll be honest with you. Like, we can do this, like, intro appointment, the establishing care appointment, but we're honestly going to just tell you the same thing because based off of everything I'm reading, like you do need to follow one of those two suggestions, either the internal medicine consult or you should go into biopsy and surgeries. And I was like, okay. So by the time the Thursday came, that was like less than 12 hours that they had called. So I was like, in my head, I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to find an internal medicine consult within the next 12 hours. And I couldn't because a lot of them are booked out. You can't, it's not like a walk-in type thing, right? Like, because these are specialty doctors. So then I had wasted my one day off for that week. And in my job currently, like I can only have one day off in the middle of the week. every other week. So to be able to have that one day off in the week to make the appointments sometimes is really challenging. I was really bummed because it felt like I had wasted that day off and I couldn't get a following appointment and everything. Like the next time I would have been able to make a follow-up appointment on another day off in the middle of the week because most of these doctors are only available Monday through Friday. And during my like peak hours that I work, the 9 to 5 normal hours, I would have to wait 2 weeks. And I was like, I don't know if my dog's going to last 2 weeks. Because at the time, I had a manager that took a leave. And so we kind of had like a step in, fill in manager, but they were never at our location. They were always at their home base location, right? And so we never really got to see them. And the only time we ever really interacted is when we had to, right? Which is whatever, it's fine. But it was hard for me to build up the courage to be honest, to like tell them, hey, because I don't have that personal relationship with that manager like I do with mine, where I feel like I can go to them and be like, hey, I need the morning off, or hey, I have a lot going on right now. And mind you, like I am the type of employee that, like, if I'm sick and I'm dying, I'm still going to work and showing up sick and dying just to prove to you that, like, I came to work. Like, I am that kind of employee. Like, I don't call out willy-nilly. I can probably count, I think, on one hand where I've ever, like, how many times I've ever called out this year is probably honestly only one that I can remember. No, yeah, honestly, I've only ever called out once this entire year. And I'm not the type that does that. And so, also to kind of just like prove my point that like if I'm asking you for a morning off, like know that it's serious or know that I need it, because I don't ever do this if I'm not requesting it off with like time in advance. It was a Friday morning off to be able to take my dog to the specialty internal medicine consult doctor visit, because that was the soonest I could find and one of the most affordable places that I could find within the area. So I did that, and luckily enough, they were pretty gracious in letting me have that morning off. So mind you, that day I was like really looking forward to having the morning off because the appointment was at 10, and I was looking forward to having like a slower morning where I could take my dog to this specialized appointment that I knew was going to cost me a little bit to do, but it was just fine. And then the rest of my day at work was supposed to be super easy. And I remember that morning I was so pissed. My manager called me, the stand-in manager calls me and was like, hey, need you to come in. XYZ's happening. This person called out. Need you to be there. Sorry. Hope your appointment goes well. And I'm like, because I was so upset for so many reasons. But that like alone gave me a lot of anxiety and frustration going into this appointment. So fast forward, I go to the appointment, and the same with this vet specialty place. Like I definitely recommend them. They're very kind. And one thing I forgot to say about Dove Lewis that I really appreciated is that, and I'm not sure if it's because of the area or the fact that all vet animal hospitals are like this, they were very understanding and very forward about their pricing on stuff and run things by you before they go through with said procedure or thing that they want to do, which I'm sure it's just how it goes, I think, maybe in the vet world, because I know when you're at the doctor and you say you want X, Y, and Z done, they don't let you know how much the bill is. At least none of mine have. So this was like a new experience for me, but I really much appreciated because it kind of gave me the like heads up or the like know of like, okay, this is how much it's going to be. Like, is this something I can do right now? And I think that's a helpful thing for other people. But for me, it was really like, okay, like, it was like kind of swallowing the pill of the additional cost of how much everything was going to be. So anyway, I do back to the internal medicine consult. So we're going through it. She asked me all the questions. I go in depth about everything, tell them like my main objective is, which still is, to get my dog to be better. They do the examination. It was probably like I want to say almost an hour, less than an hour that they took him back. And they were like, yeah, so looking through everything and based off of what you're telling me, it is true and it is practically confirmed that your dog does have a gastrointestinal disease. And it kind of gave me some relief because I asked her, I was like, well, so does he or does he not have cancer? Like, can you affirmatively tell me that? And she was saying that the doctor told me that based off of everything that I could provide, like documentation wise and from other vets, and based off of his age and the symptoms he's having, the symptoms he's currently having and has had, they don't indicate to her that they are cancer. So that makes me, that makes me feel a little better because I just think the word cancer, obviously and rightfully so, has such a bad connotation to it. And it just like, that would have been the straw that broke my back, the camel's back. But what she did say about this disease is that like she almost painted out the picture to me is that like it's under this umbrella like of intestinal diseases and we have to figure out like go down the line of like what it is. And at this point, Max is taking medications based from Dove Lewis's recommendations and also from the Vetcos that I took him to. And so I was told that like he still needs to be on all these medications and ultimately this disease that my dog has won't ever go away. It's a chronic disease, so he has it for the rest of his life and will most likely need to be on medication for the rest of his life. And with this disease, we don't have like the 100% diagnosis of exactly what type of disease it is in his gut. So now what she said is kind of pretty much affirmed what everyone else has been saying, that we have two options, that we can continue to tailor a treatment plan on medication and stuff to try to nail down and see what works best and gets him to like a better sense of normalcy. Or we could do the surgery, biopsy slash oscopies, is what I call it, of like we can do either the oscopy or the surgery to get to the biopsy part of what we need to figure out of what it is. And they suggested two oscopies, an upper GI gastrointestinal oscopy, I think is what they called it, and then also a colonoscopy. So one going through his throat and then the other one going up his bum. And they also suggested we could do a surgery route, but she suggested because of the medications he's currently on and because of his age, she just has hesitancy towards it because she's afraid that he might not heal well and it's going to take him a longer time to heal with surgery because they literally be opening up his abdomen and going in there and trying to figure it out. And so I also just like want to be super vulnerable here and say that like, dealing with all of this in the last like in almost a month's time frame, 2 weeks, a month, maybe now at this point, has been incredibly challenging because it's so defeating to not really have a full like label to what he has, but also to see my dog suffer and not be the way he normally is. And like there were so many times in the last 2 weeks to a month where I really thought I was going to lose him. And I just went through this roller coaster, and I still kind of go through those moments, this roller coaster of emotions, because I can't say enough that like I can't see my life without my dog. And that probably sounds so crazy to someone who doesn't have a dog or never had that kind of emotional attachment or trauma bonded with their pet before, but he really is everything to me. And so I am at the place where, and the doctor said this to me, that she was just like, you don't, like, you have to make the choice of what you want to do. You can go either the treatment plan or we can do the oscopies or surgery, but she's leaning more towards the oscopies. And for my own like anxiety and peace of mind, I don't feel like I can continue to go down the route of like trying to modify medicine here and there to like see what he responds well to and to get him back to a healthier and abundant life of what he can live now. I feel like my only option now is to, and to have a peace of mind, truthfully, is just to do the oscopies. And these oscopies alone are ranging from the lower end, I think, of what I saw. They sent me the estimates this weekend, was starting like between $4,000 to $5,000, upwards of $7,000, rounding it at $8,000. And that's just for the oscopies and the overnight stay and the medication, anesthesia, injections, like everything. That they gave me the full bill estimate. And that's just for that. And then she was like, after this, I definitely recommend we do 3 to 4 week follow-ups to make sure he's doing well, because hopefully the goal is that after these oscopies, once I schedule it, that they'll be able to get to the nitty-gritty of what the name of the type of disease he has, and then we tailor it around that, because at that point we'll have an answer. All that to say that, like, I don't really feel like I have, like, there are choices, but how, like, for me, in my opinion, in my like heart and soul, like, I can't not do this. I can't continue to see my dog suffer. I can't, like, I have such a big heart for my little honey, my little puppy, my dog. But I have to do this. I can't not. I can't see him suffer. It kills me. He worries me. And for the past month, it's been really hard. And for the past month, it's been really hard to see just the ups and downs of like how his health has gone. And I really just want to get my dog into a better and healthy place and like extend his life for a few years as much as I can. He's everything to me. And if I can do everything and anything in my power to do that, I want to do that. I'm trying to make every stride and effort that I can with his expensive medications. We're on a prescripted diet. I am altering, doing things and moving things around to be able to, you know, create a happier, healthier life that I can provide for him in the next few years, however long he has. I hope in a perfect world, I would love for him to have another 5 to, I think 10 years is crazy, but another 5 to 6 years would be perfect. But I also wouldn't want my dog to suffer. And so whatever, anyway, all that to say, anything that I can do to help prolong his life, a healthier and abundant life for at his age and where he's at, due to the circumstances and disease, that is my goal. But all this was just to storytell of like how hard it's been. And crazy enough, I've been noticing so many, and I think it's because of like how much more involved I am in my dog's health now. I feel like I've seen so much on social media, other people's pets passing, and I just like die and have a different heart for it. Not that I didn't before, but through this roller coaster and heavy 2 months, looked at it from a different light. I have a different heart, and I just love my honey. So that's where I've been at. We're scheduling the oscopy soon. I have faith and hope that we can get to an answer, and I just want to prolong his life. And with that big heavy bill coming up due, and the follow-up appointment and visits that are literally like $500 a pop, needless to say, your girl is going to be selling her things. I'm not asking for money, but I have so many things I need to get rid of anyway. And so here is me plugging. I think on my Instagram or somewhere, I'm just going to like throw up every like pictures of clothes, shoes, designer items I have that I no longer need. And it's not for the sake of that, like, help me, I can't pay for my dog surgery. It's just like hey, help me get rid of my things that I planned on donating anyway. You can make offers on them. I don't really know the full detail of how I'm going to do it yet, but I have like so many boxes of things I need to get rid of, and a storage unit of stuff that I don't need anymore, full of stuff from my life of when I lived in Seattle that I need to go through. And so why not try to make even a couple $100 if I can, selling my things that I don't need anymore and I was going to donate to help cover the cost of my dog's stuff. Because this feels like it is just the beginning of his future, hopefully happy, healthy life. But if you've made it this far to the end of the video, thank you so much for listening to me rant and be emotional about my dog that I love so much. And if you take anything from this video, is two things actually. One, please like, share, comment, subscribe. Help me quit my job. To be honest, that's a whole nother video. Help me quit my job. It's not the fact that I like hate my job necessarily, but I don't want to do the 9 to 5 anymore. It's not for me. I want to create a life that I can take care of myself and my family, retire my, and I've gone through this of why I want to live and have a different way of making my means and my income, because I don't want to do the corporate life anymore. I've been doing that since I started working when I was like 14. And I just want a different way of doing it. And if I could podcast for the rest of my life and talk about stuff, that would be a dream come true. But I have so many goals, and I just help me get there, please. Even if you play this video in the background and you don't even hear my voice, you just put it on, zero, no volume, help it get it out there. I'm gonna definitely work on being more consistent. It just was a really hard month of me trying to navigate that through my emotions and financially, and my dog's health was just more important at the time and took precedence, But the other thing I was going to say, if you take anything else from this video, if you are a pet owner, I urge you to do your due diligence, or I should say, don't put it off. Schedule normal checkup vet appointments, check in on your pet's diet, brush their teeth, take care of them and love them, and do everything you can to take care of your pet. I wish I would have been proactive, or I should say, I wish I would have been more responsible when I first got my dog, when I was like 19 or 18 or whenever it was. And I had known the responsibility of what it was, because maybe I could have prevented it. I don't know. But take care of your pets. Anyway, again, thank you for listening. And until next time, take care.